Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Bhavna Pathak. I'm a hematologist-oncologist here at MemorialCare. I also serve as the medical director of our integrative oncology program. I'm thrilled to welcome you to our Let's Nourish Ourselves modules, where we're looking at how to nourish our mind, body, and spirits. Today's topic is on survivorship, and I'm joined by the wonderful Mandy Trammell, our registered dietitian.
Thank you for having me. I am so grateful to be a part of this project. It has really been a great opportunity for myself and my team of dietitians over at Saddleback MemorialCare to really collaborate with our sister sites at Orange Coast and Long Beach MemorialCare to hopefully come up with some information that patients and families will find valuable and can really take and utilize, especially those that are entrusting us during their cancer care.
Yes, thank you so much for your labor of love. It's so wonderful to rely on your expert wisdom, especially as it relates to nutrition. And so, as for some background to today's topic, survivorship, prior to med school, I had a degree in anthropology and the study of human cultures. And anytime humans go through an illness, they don this sort of role of being sick, having a sick role. And so after patients emerge from the experience of cancer, it's sometimes challenging to shed this kind of codified sick role, this cloak of being sick, into maybe, being a survivor. And you would expect to be happy and excited, but oftentimes my patients can feel sort of riddled with anxiety about cancer coming back. And so for these patients and families, Mandy, can you share with us some things they can do nutritionally to help lower their risk for recurrence?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to start by saying everything that we're going to share and talk about today is evidence-based, and you can find these recommendations at the American Institute for Cancer Research, that has a lot of resources to help support you in this. But generally what we're looking at for survivorship is eating a diet that is rich in whole grains, rich in fruits and vegetables, beans and lentils, generally a Mediterranean style diet where half to 3/4 of your plate are these wholesome foods, these fruits, these vegetables, these whole grains, which are going to provide not only nutrients like carbs and protein, but they're going to come along with healthy fibers, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, anti-inflammatory compounds. So really that's the bulk of our diet. We want to make sure we also include protein, so lean sources of protein, vegetarian proteins, leaning into beans and nuts and lentils, all topped with a nice healthy dosing of heart-healthy fat and olive oil, walnuts, avocados, having seafood. This is really the type of diet that is supported in literature. It's been studied and practiced for a long time. We see these diets in these different blue zones around the world where people are living into their hundreds. And it's just a really safe and balanced way to practice good nutrition and really optimize your nutrition.
Wow, that's wonderful. What a good takeaway to follow the diet that has allowed people to live to 100 years and beyond. What a wonderful feeling for a survivor to have that in their pocket. Are there any foods that should be limited or avoided, Mandy?
Yeah, there are definitely foods that have been shown to be carcinogenic or cancer promoting. Now, I do want to say that not one food, one meal is going to cause you to have a reoccurrence of cancer. It's about overall consistency. What are you regularly eating? So I don't want these items to create more fear or anxiety about eating. What you should be, you should kind of use this to be thoughtful and conscientious about what you put into your body. So some things to limit or be thoughtful about. Red meat, we want to limit our portions to less than 18 ounces a week of red meat. And it's a good idea to choose a hormone-free grass-fed red meat product. We want to limit or avoid heavily processed meats. These can be things like bacon, sausage, hot dogs, lunch meats. These meats have really been taken from their natural form, processed, converted, preserved, and all of those steps and those added chemicals really can be cancer promoting. So we want to limit those items that we're getting. And if you do want to have a hot dog or some bacon, try and find a source that's a little cleaner, that doesn't have the nitrates added to it, that's maybe grass-fed or doesn't have the additional processing, but still kind of gives you that flavor that you're craving. Another thing we want to limit or be conscientious about is drinks with added sugars. So this can be juices, this can be sodas, this can be really sweet coffee beverages. Those liquid sugars go in us and get absorbed really quickly, causing a rise in blood sugar, and that can be harmful overall for our body and just prevent our body from functioning in a healthful way. So we want to limit those items and really hydrate things that are beneficial. Water is a great one. As a cancer survivor or maybe a family member with a history of cancer, there really isn't a safe amount of alcohol to drink. So my recommendation when it comes to alcohol is to limit it or avoid it if possible, especially if your history is with breast cancer. And you can choose, sparkling drinks to participate, in festive events, mocktails that are not sweetened with a bunch of added sugar, to feel like you can still be part of that social event or that festivity or that gathering without partaking in the alcohol. And overall, it's good practice to limit your amount of highly processed foods. So these are foods that are high in white flour, they're high in sugar. When you look at the food label, there's a long list of ingredients on them, some of them which you might not recognize. If that's a food item that you have on hand, maybe limit the amount that you're eating or look for an alternative. Find another product that has less ingredients, that has more wholesome ingredients. Or if you're gonna have that product, pair it with something wholesome. If you're gonna have that highly processed donut in the morning, make sure you pair it with some fresh berries or some scrambled eggs so that your body's getting that balanced nutrition and not just that straight processed sugar.
Thank you so much for sharing that wealth of knowledge, Mandy. And I feel like you did it in a way that honors somebody's dignity as they go through the cancer journey, stepping out of society for a while into this crucible of treatment, and then coming out of it, certainly with some battle scars, but maybe for the better, being more mindful about how they are at a ball game or at a cocktail party. So thank you. Now, to that end, after treatment, oftentimes we see some fluctuations in people's weights, often weight gain, but sometimes weight loss. So tell us a little bit more about weight after treatment.
Yeah, the literature out there really supports that one of the risk factors for cancer reoccurrence is having an unhealthy weight, and an unhealthy weight can be too low or it can be too high. So ideally, post-treatment, and to really improve your chances for survivorship and keeping that cancer diagnosis as a thing of the past, we want to aim for a healthy weight. And a healthy weight is individual. There are things that can help us make that decision, like BMI, waist circumference, but it's also going to be historically, what's your natural body type? Where have you been when you were healthy and moving your body and eating right? So the decision of the number or the range should be something that you work with your cancer care team on and figure out what's right for you personally. And it may not be one number on a scale, but definitely being considerate about your weight is important. Literature definitely supports that it's good to be at a healthy weight. And we do this by nourishing ourselves. We do this by having a diet that is balanced and wholesome and rich in unprocessed foods to really give our body the support and the building blocks that it needs. Again, I really like the idea of kind of following that Mediterranean diet and thinking about the things that you can put into your body. What can I add to my diet to give me these benefits, rather than being afraid, being fearful, being restrictive. And so having that mindset, and also being compassionate that this is not a 1 week, a 1 month, a 1 year thing. These are goals that we are trying to establish and maintain for our lifetime. So start with one thing at a time. Tackle one goal at a time. And that might look like, okay, I get 1 vegetable in a day. I'm gonna try to increase that to 2. And so with my dinner, with my snack, I'm going to add another vegetable to my plate. Maybe I don't move a lot. Maybe I'm pretty relatively sedentary. Well, then I'm gonna try to add a walk around the block. Ideally, and with help from your care team, we recommend that patients get a minimum of 150 minutes of moderate to intense physical activity a week, which comes out to about 30 minutes 5 days a week. But again, start where you're at. Make steps towards those goals, because those realistic small wins are going to add up, and they're going to keep you going and keep you motivated. And this is especially important if you or your family member is still having any kind of symptoms from your cancer treatments. Be kind with yourself and give yourself grace to get to that long-term maintainable goal.
Wow, wonderful. I feel like you've really summarized what a lot of us would love to have in our life. And for those of us going through a cancer journey, I hope you remember Mandy's message of, just setting realistic goals, realistic expectations, trying to find your little pocket of happy by, including one new thing, a meal or a week, and getting moving, these simple things, including the Mediterranean diet. And, remembering that the literature does support a healthy weight for you as an individual. And we're not trying to moralize it, but we're really just trying to, lovingly bring you into optimal health. So with that message of nourishing ourselves, I'd love for Mandy to do the honors of our little module slogan.
Let's nourish ourselves.